Welcome aboard, everybody. Dr. Peter Glidden here. Thanks for tuning in. We have another exciting show today where we pull back the curtain on conventional medical nonsense and show you the light of medical wisdom with science-based, clinically verified alternatives to drugs and surgery that you can start right now. And before we begin, a shout-out to the Longevity Celebrity of the Week. That would be Sean Buchanan in Salt Lake City and all of his associates. You know who's going to change the world? He's going to change the world. Why is he going to change the world? Because he's taken a big bite of the truth. It has completely altered and changed his life, and now he can't even sleep at night because he's so excited about spreading this message. Why is he excited about spreading this message? Because it's true. And when you speak the truth, it resonates with people. I say this all the time. We're not selling a darn thing in the longevity. You are not selling anything. We are not selling anything. What we are doing is showing people what we're up to, speaking the truth, and then seeing if they would like to engage with us or not. Look, if I'm playing catch with you and you don't want to play catch, all I'm doing is throwing crap at you. I don't want to do that. That's no fun for me. It's certainly no fun for you. To become a longevity representative, ladies and gentlemen, and start to spread our message of health recovery through medical nutrition, you don't have to sell a thing. All you have to do is open your mouth and speak the truth. That is it. When you do this, remarkable things start to happen. People start to recover their health. They take your advice. They take our advice. They start taking the Healthy Start Pack. They start taking the OsteoFX. They start taking the Selenium. They start taking the Ultimate Daily. They start taking the Triple Treat Chocolate. They start taking whatever it is that their body needs, and they clean up their diet. And for the first time in their lives, their bodies have had everything that their bodies need to fix themselves. So what do you think the body's going to do? It's going to fix itself. And, you know, this is quackery, right? This is unscientific. Yeah, $25 million of federally funded research, 26,000 autopsies, 10 million blood chemistries and histopathologies. Yeah, that's unscientific. Irks me to no end when medical doctors tell people nonsense and they get away with it. Oh, you know, you're lupus. That's an autoimmune disease. You have a gene in your body that flipped on. We don't know what gene it is. We don't know what caused it to flip on, and it flipped on, and now you have antibodies in your blood that are destroying your tissue. Your body's eating itself up. Well, guess what? The antibody is there to clean up the mess caused by inflammation and tissue destruction. The antibody is not causing the illness. The antibody is there to clean up the mess of the illness. The cholesterol does not clog the artery. The cholesterol is laid down in the artery to keep you from bleeding to death, to fix the inflammatory artery disease. It's inflammation that causes all of this stuff. But because the MDs are like colorblind art critics, because the MDs have thrown the baby out with the bathwater, when they come late to the pathophysiological party, they misrepresent and misinterpret what they see. And then because nobody questions them on it, because everybody takes what they say as dictum, because they are all patently cowards, myths get perpetuated. So, you know, years ago, right, they killed George Washington because the medical myth at the time was you needed to bleed people to death. You needed to eliminate the bad humors from the body, because it was bad humors that caused illness. How did you eliminate bad humors? Well, you cut people's wrists open and let them bleed. You bled people. That's why the leading medical journal in the world now is called The Lancet, because that's what medical doctors, that was their main therapeutic tool, lancets. They bled people to death. Now they're telling you, oh, take the flu vaccine. You've heard this one. It's flu season now, right? They're telling you to take the flu vaccine. Only problem with the flu vaccine is, well, it doesn't work. The statistical analysis of people who get the influenza vaccine, the most optimistic analysis, the most optimistic analyses of the effectiveness of the influenza virus puts the effectiveness at somewhere between 8 and 9%. 8 and 9%, somewhere between 8 and 9%. It's 8 and 9% effective, which means it's between 92 and 91% ineffective. It's ineffective. Oh, but that's okay. 8% is better than nothing because it can't harm people. Well, no, not so much. Ever heard of Guillain-Barré syndrome? Well, that's caused by side effects of the influenza vaccine. Ladies and gentlemen, the only reason that the influenza vaccine is peddled is because the pharmaceutical companies are in bed with the government. For goodness sake, the pharmaceutical companies funded the first couple of years of World War II. They funded it. That's how the Germans got the money to build all the tanks and all the bombs and all the planes that they needed to invade Poland. It was because of drug money from the pharmaceutical industries. Pharmaceutical industries funded World War II. Bayer, the Bayer Pharmaceutical Company was a member of a coalition of pharmaceutical companies in World War II that built a pharmaceutical production plant next to one of the death camps in Germany, either Dachau or Auschwitz. I forget which one. They used the inmates to do medical experiments on. They used the inmates to manufacture the Zyklon B gas that killed the Jews and the Gypsies and everybody else in those concentration camps. And that company, Bayer, is now in business in the United States selling your children aspirin. If you're of Jewish descent and you take Bayer, any product made by the Bayer company, Hitler is someplace in the cosmos laughing at you. This is the power that the pharmaceutical industry has. So here's how it goes with the influenza virus. The government tells the pharmaceutical companies that they're going to give them millions and millions of dollars to make the influenza vaccine. Why are they going to give them millions and millions of dollars? Because they're in bed together. So they take your hard-earned tax dollars and they give it to the pharmaceutical companies because they've made sweetheart deals. The pharmaceutical companies make the drugs, now the government has the drugs, and the government tries to convince you to take the drugs, even though from a statistical point of view, they are over 90% ineffective. They do not work, they do not work, they do not work. But because nobody questions the MD, because nobody is scholarly enough to do an actual analysis of this objectively, and certainly this is not going to happen in medical schools, because medical schools are funded by the pharmaceutical industry. Certainly this is not going to happen in hospitals, because hospitals are funded by the pharmaceutical industry. Certainly this is not going to happen by the FDA, because over 30% of the people employed by the FDA to give them advice about the efficacy of the drugs work for the drug companies. They're in bed together. They have been for the last 100 years. It's why the MDs are in the driver's seat of medicine in this country. It's not because their therapeutics are better. It's not because their therapeutics are more effective. And it's not because their therapeutics are safer. It's because of pharmaceutical money. It's because of drug money. Where's Nancy Reagan when you need her? Just say no. Now, I want to talk about influenza. Let's talk about influenza. After World War I, now most of you aren't going to remember World War I. After World War I, there was an epidemic of the Spanish flu, and it killed millions of people around the world. There was a military ship, hospital ship, coming from England, I believe, to the United States. And the doctors on that particular military hospital ship were homeopathic physicians using homeopathic medicine, which is now, looked as we look down our nose at homeopathy in the United States as some type of hocus-pocus voodoo medicine, even though the pharmaceutical industry is the only people practicing hocus-pocus voodoo medicine. But they have taught us to look down at everybody but them, right? We have become culturally conditioned to genuflect at the altar of the MD for no reason other than social. It's a plan put in place to socialize you into accepting lies as truth. Constant surveillance, that's freedom, right? Preventive war, going to war all the time, that's peace, right? It's nonsense. So the homeopathic doctors on this ship treating people with the Spanish flu had an 85% success rate with the Spanish flu, and nobody on that ship died. Nobody on that ship died. They had an 85% success rate in eliminating the flu, 85%. That's a pretty good success rate, right? The MDs, 15% success rate. The MDs using pharmaceutical medicines and inoculations and all of this, modern pharmaceuticals, the greatest drug medicine in the world, 15%, which is better, 15% or 85%, 85%. So why are the drug companies in power now and not the homeopaths? Why are the MDs practicing pharmaceutical medicine that's only 15% effective in power, and the homeopaths practicing medicine that's 85% effective? Why are they not in power? Because of drug money. The only reason the MDs are in power in this country is because of financial and political coalitions built at the turn of the century that everybody's forgotten about. And at some point in time in your life, you will get sick and tired of taking drug after drug after drug, and you're just not going to be able to handle that third knee surgery. And at that point in time, you will come to our side. But in the meantime, think of the quality of life that could be increased if you started taking our advice now. Sometimes there are extremely nasty strains of virus or bacteria, and I don't really care how strong your immune system is. If you're exposed to that, you're probably going to get affected by it. However, what we need to pay attention to here is making the system so strong, making the immune system and the circulatory system and the respiratory system so strong that it can handle that stress. So you're sick for 3, 4, 5 days, but you get over it. It doesn't kill you. How do we do this? Is it we are hoping and praying that we have the good immune system gene? No. There's no such thing. It's by taking the raw materials into your body that your body needs to stay healthy every day, and by stopping eating the 10 bad foods. The recommendation for a healthy immune system: 1 healthy start pack per 100 pounds of body weight per month, 1 ultimate selenium per 50 pounds of body weight per month, and if you do get sick, take 2 killer biotics 3 times a day and use the colloidal silver as a throat spray. Somebody's got to be number one. It might as well be me. Now, I've had a number of revelations in my life, a number of aha moments, a number of eureka moments in my life. And when you have a eureka moment, it's when you have access to information that you didn't know you didn't know. I know I can't speak French. I know that. I know I can't fly an airplane. I know that. And it's the same way with all of us. There's stuff that we know that we don't know, right? But there's some stuff that you didn't even know you didn't know that, and when you get access to that information, your head explodes. And that's a really cool thing. That's like Newton in the apple falls and he figures out gravity. Well, he tries to figure out gravity, or whatever it was that he figured out. Laws of motion or whatever, all right? The point is, when you have an aha moment, it's a life changer. And when you become involved with longevity, you have aha moments every month. Aha moments every month. I didn't know. I didn't even know that. Holy smokes, is that right? Oh my God, that's awesome. I didn't know that. Well, one of the things I didn't know is that MDs are not trained and they do not care about the cause of disease. They don't. They're not. MDs are trained in the use of prescription medications and surgery to manage the disease. That's what they're trained in. They're trained in anatomy and a little bit of physiology, so that if you give this anesthesia drug, this is going to happen to the liver, and you need to give this anesthesia drug to offset that, or whatever. They know about biochemical reactions caused by drugs, and that's their main thing. That's their main course of education. They're not concerned with what causes your arthritis. They're not concerned with what causes your type 2 diabetes. They're not concerned with what causes the heartburn. Nor are they trained in therapeutics to cure these illnesses. They are trained in therapeutics to manage the illness with prescription medication. That's what they're trained in. Now, if you're okay with that, you're okay with that. And there are arguably sometimes when that medical approach is a smart idea. However, most of the time, it's a stupid idea. And so when you're not concerned with the cause, and all you're concerned with is pharmacological management of the disease, nothing ever gets fixed. So you paint over the mold in the basement instead of getting to the root cause of why there was mold there in the first place. A couple months later, you're going to need more paint. A couple months later, you're going to need more paint. A couple months later, you're going to need a new basement. That's how it goes in MD land. And you know, I talked about this yesterday, or whenever it was that I talked about it, because this is one big stream of consciousness for me, right? One big stream of consciousness, and I am happy to float down this stream, baby. I am happy to float down this stream. MDs who they cannot cure heartburn. We have given the people who cannot cure heartburn $600 billion to try to cure cancer. And that's why we haven't cured cancer. That's why we've lost the war. It's not because cancer is like a really complicated thing to figure out. It's because the MDs are not trained and have no earthly idea about the genesis of disease. They are clueless about it. And we're giving these people money to cure cancer, and they can't even cure heartburn? You've got to be kidding me. The only reason that we do this is because we have been convinced by the drug companies and by the insurance companies and by the hospitals who these people work for that they know everything about medicine and that nobody knows anything else about medicine except them. Even though the piece of the pie of medicine that they're trained and they're educated in, they have clinical experience with, is an eeny, weeny, teeny piece of the pie. For goodness sake, we have become enculturated in mediocrity. We have become enculturated in mediocrity. And every time you use an MD, you are laying yourself upon the altar of mediocrity. And when you get a mediocre outcome, don't be surprised. Little history lesson first. During the Renaissance, way back in the 1500s, there was an Italian historian, diplomat, philosopher, and writer named Niccolo Machiavelli. Machiavelli wrote his most famous work, arguably, was a book called The Prince. And in The Prince, Machiavelli argued that at some point in time, it is entirely appropriate and necessary to use deceit and lies and power and brute force to accomplish an end, like a positive end. So if you were a politician and you wanted to lie or you wanted to kill people in order to gain power so that you could then, help people with your agenda, you were justified in doing that because according to Machiavelli, the ends justify the means, right? And this is where this term comes from. Whenever you hear somebody saying, oh, he's very Machiavellian, or oh, she's very Machiavellian, what that means is a person who is being Machiavellian is comfortable with using brute force, lies, and deception in order to accomplish their goals. And that they do not lose any sleep about this at all. Hitler, right? The classic Machiavellian stereotype of the 20th century, for sure. Hitler's ends justified the means. So, from this particular point of view, I am of the opinion, and you should be too, and I'm coining this phrase here for the very first time, so you're going to want to write this date and time down, because I am going to come back to this all of the time. Your MD is a Machiavellian minister of mediocrity. How about that? Your MD is a Machiavellian minister of mediocrity. And we have gotten so used to mediocre outcomes here in this country that we continue to go back to these people. We continue to give these people money every month, even when we don't use their services. That's pretty remarkable to me, that we continue to do that. The only reason we continue to do that is because we do not know there is a better way. Well, I'm about to give you an example of the better way right now. We're going to the phones. We're going to talk to Mary, who's calling from Oregon. And remember, folks, these calls are not screened. These calls are not scripted. I have no idea what Mary is about to say, but I think she's going to give us a success story about longevity. Mary, welcome aboard. You are live with Dr. Glidden.
Yes, I've reached another milestone in my use of longevity.
All right, tell us all about it.
Well, a little bit of background. I was listening to Pharmacist Ben say that we shouldn't even wear sunglasses because we need to not wear sunglasses. Now, that may or may not be true, but when I heard it, I thought, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. Well, in the beginning of August, I was down at the creek, and I was clearing branches away because my grandson was coming to visit. And one of the branches came back, smacked me, knocked my lens out. So I had to go to clear glasses. Well, you know, I never even noticed the difference. In the month of August, I did not notice that I was out in the sun with just clear glass, no sunglasses.
Yeah, and your body got used to it, right? And the whole idea behind Pharmacist Ben's little rant about not wearing sunglasses is that there are cells in the back of your eye on the retina which are sensitive to sunlight. And when those cells are stimulated by the presence of sunlight, they start a biochemical cascade inside the body where your body produces skin pigment. And your body produces skin pigment the more sunlight that you're exposed to on a daily basis. And this is your natural protection against ultraviolet radiation. And so this is, you know, the medical doctors will tell you that sun exposure causes, you know, skin cancer and you need to stay inside, or when you're outside, wear long sleeves. And Ben Fuchs was talking about, well, one of the workarounds for that is to just not use sunglasses, because when you don't use sunglasses, your body naturally makes more pigment, and pigment is the body's natural defense against ultraviolet radiation. So that's really pretty great, Mary. Have you taken any of the longevity products at all?
Oh, yeah, I take them all. I mean, I have one milestone after another. It's just...
All right, well, give me a physical milestone that you have crested or that you have reached after the use of the longevity stuff. How has the longevity, what has it done to actually help you in your life?
Well, I hate to say this, but so many people would be relieved by it, and that's an understatement. No more hemorrhoids.
So you used to have hemorrhoids before you started the longevity stuff. Now you don't have any, right?
As long as I take enough selenium, and for your listening audience, that's because it's got the copper in there. That's the copper with enough cofactor minerals.
So before you started the longevity stuff, how frequently were you bothered by hemorrhoids?
Monthly.
Yeah, and did you ever have to have them surgically altered, or did you have to take medication for it?
No, I'm not. I'm not.
You
that bad.
You were
My
not
mother.
of that ilk anyway. So you had monthly problem with hemorrhoids, which went away after you took the longevity nutritional supplements, right?
Right.
You got to love that. Anything else? I mean, anything else improved, like arthritis or high blood pressure or anything at all?
Well, all kinds of things. I mean, you have unlimited amounts of energy. I never need coffee. You know, I enjoy drinking it once in a while. But I don't need coffee, and this is to go through, well, I'm 62, you know, this is to go through my day, and I had to have coffee most of my life just to get through the next few hours.
And now you don't. You've got all the energy that you need. How's your sleep at night? Did anything change in your sleep patterns?
I'm glad you said that, because, I sleep like a baby, and I know that's one of the benefits.
Yeah, and before that it was trouble, right? So, you know, again, folks, this is unscripted. I have no idea who Mary is. We didn't talk before this radio show. We didn't talk off air. This is the first time I'm talking to her live on the show. And, you know, I'm just kind of pulling things out of my hat here because I have experience with what happens to people when they take medical nutrition. So, give me one more thing, Mary, one more big thing that's happened to you since you've been changing your diet and taking the longevity stuff.
Well, before I say that, I'd like to tell people that a lot of times when you're on the longevity products, you forget about the problems you had beforehand.
You're exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
you only think about them.
I know. That's an interesting thing to talk about. Let me riff on that for a little bit, and I really appreciate the call, Mary. Thank you so much for the call. Thank you so much for the support. Thank you for what you're doing with your community, because as it turns out, you and people like you are the last best hope that your friends and family and church members and community members have to live a long, healthy, wealthy life. So keep up the good work. Thank you so much for calling. That's an interesting thing to talk about, folks. I can't tell you how many times this has happened to me as a medical professional, right? Somebody comes in and they sit down across from my desk and they have a laundry list of all of these things that are bothering them. And it's a laundry list. There's 10, 15 things. Oh, I can't sleep. Oh, I have aches and pains. Oh, I have arthritis in my hip. Oh, I need my blood sugar's a problem. I can't fall asleep. I can't stay asleep. I've got heartburn. I've got this, that, and the other thing. And, all of these things are problematic and valid complaints that are the reason that they came to see me, because they're at the end of their rope. So I'll put them on a program, and we'll let time go by, because that's what you do with medical nutrition. And 6, 7, 8 weeks later, they come back to my office for a follow-up. And I'll sit them down in the chair, and I'll say, so, Kenny, how's it going? What's happening? How's your health? How do you feel? And I say, well, Doc, I don't know, man. I'm spending a couple of $100 a month, and I don't really know if it's helping. I don't really know if anything's getting better. And I'll say, all right, well, what about that problem that you had falling asleep every night? And then Kenny takes a minute. He says, son of a gun, I haven't thought about that. I'm sleeping like a baby. Well, all right, Kenny. What about that trigger finger that you had in your right hand? And, it was you like to do shotgun shooting on the weekends, and you were having trouble. How's the trigger finger? Well, Doc, what trigger finger? It's not a problem anymore, and so forth and so on. This is the nature of the way that our brains are wired, right? The brain is wired to forget negative things. It is. So this is why when you get involved at the beginning with medical nutrition, what I recommend you do is you write down your laundry list on a piece of paper. You keep it on the fridge. And once a week, you check off on that laundry list. You date it and put a little check next to it. Better or worse, better or worse, better or worse. You can even grade it if you want. My arthritic pain in my right knee, it's a 5 out of a 10. Or my problem with my sleep, it's a 9 out of a 10. Or my heartburn, oh my God, that's a 10 out of a 10. And then as time goes by, every week you just check into this list and you grade it. And then you will see over time your symptoms getting better. And that's what drives us forward, results. We're not interested in theoretical nonsense, theoretical mumbo-jumbo, aluminum causes Alzheimer's. I don't think so. What I'm interested in is results. Pragmatic, boots on the ground results. And that's what we get here with science-based, clinically verified medical nutrition. All right, enough, Dr. Glidden. Knock it off. Let's go back to the phones. John from Atlanta is calling with a question about his wife, I think, who suffers from Stevens-Johnson syndrome. How about that? John, you are live with Dr. Glidden. Welcome aboard.
Hey, Dr. Glidden, thank you for taking my call. I was calling about my wife. She suffered from Stevens-Johnson syndrome in 2004, and as a result had to take heavy doses of powerful steroids for 6 months, causing her to gain about 60 pounds.
Yeah.
And since then, she's just had an awful time trying to get that weight off, and nothing seems to work. I do have her on some longevity products, but I don't think she's taking it very faithfully, though.
Yeah. What happened to the Stevens-Johnson syndrome? By the way, folks, that's a skin condition. It's also called erythema multiforme. And it's when your skin starts doing funky things. It's usually involved with the blood vessels of the skin, and it can also involve the skin itself. The most common cause, by the way, of this condition is a reaction to a prescription medication, right? So, do your doctors know what caused it?
Yeah, it was a reaction to naproxen sodium or Advil, and she almost died. And but thankfully, we got her to a doctor who knew what to do about it, and she survived. But because of the cure, she gained all this weight, and it just won't go away for nothing.
All right, very good. So how long ago did all this happen, man?
It was 2004. Okay, they say the steroids will stay in your system for about a year to 2 years after you stop taking it.
Yeah, okay. So the reason that she's continuing to maintain the weight is unrelated to the steroids. The steroids made her gain weight. The steroids will make anybody gain weight. They make you blow up like a balloon. That's a side effect of the steroid, right? But after the drug action passes, if you continue to maintain body weight, it's for one reason and one reason only, and you are going to be the happiest man in the world at the end of this call. The only reason that makes people be overweight, and I don't care what instigated the weight gain in the first place. I don't care what it was. I don't care if it was a drug reaction. I don't care if it was because of, too much alcohol or whatever. Once people are overweight, the only reason that they are overweight and that they cannot come back to a normal body weight is because their body is nutritionally deficient. Weight gain and obesity is a deficiency disease. It is not a disease of excess, and I'm going to tell you what the heck I'm talking about and how to fix it. We are talking to John about his wife, and let me give you the rundown here. John's wife years ago was in some type of pain, and I'm going to talk to him about why in a minute because that's important, and she was taking Advil. She had an adverse reaction to Advil, and it gave her a condition called erythema multiforme, and then which almost killed her. And then the MDs gave her prednisone in order to get over that. Now, prednisone, of course, is the world-famous anti-inflammatory steroidal drug, which is modeled biochemically, by the way, after cortisol, which is the human equivalent of prednisone, right? Prednisone is the synthetic equivalent of the body's own anti-inflammatory cortisol. So, for goodness sake, they almost killed her. And then she gains a massive amount of weight as a reaction to the prednisone, and now we're in the weeds, right? So why did she take the Advil in the first place?
She was just having some pains and some, something you might take aspirin for, things like that.
Yeah, has that stuff gone away, or is she still in pain on a regular basis?
Well, she does have pains in her hips right now that she's been complaining about, like if she stands a lot, it hurts in her hips. I can't tell if it's her muscles in the hips or the bones themselves or the joints. But if she stands a lot or walks a lot, it hurts, and it wakes her up at night sometimes.
Yeah, the game is afoot. Okay, so here's the deal, John. We've got 3-4 minutes here. I'm just going to have to dial this in kind of concisely. Okay, so I appreciate your call. So here's the deal. The human body has wisdom. And the human body knows when it's running on nutrient fumes. There are 90 essential nutrients that the human body needs. And when the human body runs out of these nutrients, it knows that it's running out of these nutrients, right? And your body knows that if it doesn't have enough of these nutrients, the heart's going to give way, the liver's going to give way, the joints are going to give way, the spinal cord's going to give way, the gallbladder's going to give way. It knows something bad will happen. So when your body is running on nutrient fumes, it makes you eat. And the only thing that makes people keep weight on, sometimes a drug can make you gain weight, but the only thing that makes that weight stay on is you eat too many calories. The only thing that makes you eat, it's got nothing to do with exercise, it's got nothing to do with genetics, it's got nothing to do with the man in the moon. The only reason people keep weight on is they eat too many calories, period. The only reason we eat too many calories is because our body is forcing us to eat food. Why is our body forcing us to eat food? Because it's desperately trying to fill its nutritional tank up. It's that simple. The only problem is the food that we're eating doesn't have the nutrients in it that we need, number one, and number two, most of us are eating all of the wrong foods. And the foods that we do eat not only are nutritionally deficient, but they're loaded with inflammatory biochemicals which cause more problems than they fix. So we eat all the wrong foods, and so here's how it is. Your body's running on nutrient fumes. You're starving to death, literally. Your body makes you go to Olive Garden, and so you eat 3,000 calories at Olive Garden, think nothing of it, and 2 hours later you're hungry again. Now, your medical doctor will tell you you have a bad gene, or you're lazy, or you need to exercise more, or, you need to cut your stomach out. That's why you're eating too much. Well, you're eating too much because your body is forcing you to eat because you're nutritionally starved. Your body has run out of raw materials, and that's why her hips are starting to ache and her joints are starting to ache, because they, too, have run out of the nutrients that they need to maintain their body health. She's starting to fall apart. So what do we do to fix this? It's easy. We clean up her diet. She, you, me, and everybody listening to this show needs to stop eating 10 bad foods. Stop it. You can download that list for free. I'll email you that list for free if you go to fireyourmdnow.com and opt in for my email list right there on the front page. We send you an email that has a link to the Good Food, Bad Food document and a little video I created that tells you why those foods are bad. So just go to fireyourmdnow.com and opt in for the email list. It's free. So once we've targeted and eliminated the 10 bad foods, the only other thing necessary to do is fill the body's nutritional tank up. And here's how we do that. She would need, in order to fill her nutritional tank up, 1 healthy start pack per 100 pounds of body weight per month. 1 healthy start pack per 100 pounds of body weight per month. And in addition to that, to help support the joints, 1 capsule of glucogel per 10 pounds of body weight per day. 1 capsule of glucogel per 10 pounds of body weight per day. Call my friendly, knowledgeable associates at 855-347-3696. That's 855-347-3696. And they'll tell you how to get this stuff at the wholesale price and also how to dose it, because knowledge is power and healing is easy. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Dr. Peter Glidden. See you next week.